I think it's very fair to say that it has been a massive roller coaster week for the WWE this week. On Sunday, you had the massively negative reaction to the Royal Rumble, in particular Daniel Bryan not being in there. You had massively negative reaction from the fans about Batista winning the Royal Rumble and going on to main event WrestleMania 30. You had a Raw which you had to rewrite at the very last minute because a certain CM Punk apparently quit the company on Monday before the Raw taping. So it's been a bit of a hectic roller coaster week for WWE this week. And I'm going to talk about all this stuff in this week's Smackdown review. I firstly just want to offer an apology to all the people that thought that I might be reuniting with NJ to be in the Raw review, and I was planning on doing it, but you know, as I did say in the Royal Rumble review that I'd be back for the road to WrestleMania, but I did watch Raw. I tried, but it sucked. I'm sorry, Raw this week sucked donkey balls. I just didn't want to review a show that just sucked and I wasn't really going to say anything good about. It was so bad, in my opinion, that even a segment involving Randy Orton, the current face of the WWE, Brock Lesnar, and Batista, who's going to be main eventing WrestleMania 30, even that segment fell flat. That's how bad this Raw and this Cleveland crowd was this week. But it doesn't mean I won't be talking about what happened on Raw. No. I'm still going to be touching on certain things with different topics about, you know, in this review. And I've got a lot to talk about here. So if this review seems very scattered, please bear with me. I will, at the end of this review, be addressing this whole CM Punk situation and giving my 2 cents on the whole thing. Following the intense crowd reaction in favour of Daniel Bryan and very much against the Authority's boy Batista in the Royal Rumble, WWE really had to start off by addressing this, as this was a massive talking point and affected the whole show, in my opinion. So this needed to be addressed first thing on the first chance they had to do it, and they did. On Raw, they had a very good opener with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon in the ring, basically poning the crowd, saying that, you know, oh, it was a good little effort by Daniel Bryan, etc. Thought that was kind of funny, and oh, you didn't get what you want. I thought that was also quite funny as well. Well done, Triple H, on that one. And then you have Daniel Bryan and Triple H going at it in the ring, which was really entertaining. Daniel Bryan making his claim against the Authority after the fans were so obviously on his side and pissed off about anything that was going against him. Pretty much saying to Triple H, look, listen to the crowd reactions. They want me in the main event of WrestleMania. They want me the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. You know, so they're playing to this Authority storyline, which seems to be the Daniel Bryan storyline now after what happened with CM Punk. More on that later. As for people, you know, complaining about him not being in the Royal Rumble, you know, he was never going to win the Royal Rumble. I mean, come on. You really think that Daniel Bryan was going to win the Royal Rumble over Batista, a guy that is a proven draw and a massive draw in the company? You know, even though he has been out for 4 years, of course WWE are going to put more stock in a guy, you know, like Batista than they're going to do Daniel Bryan, because he's a much more proven draw and he's obviously going to sell way more seats. He's obviously going to sell way more pay-per-view buys, being in the main event of WrestleMania 30, which is a big WrestleMania, might I add, which you need big stars in the main event of. And Daniel Bryan just isn't that. I'm sorry. I'm as much of a Daniel Bryan fan as a lot of you guys out there, but I'm sorry, even I know that Daniel Bryan just can't main event a WrestleMania 30. It's just not going to happen. So I'm not being unrealistic about that. So it seems like WWE, after these last-minute change of plans or whatever, are teasing some tension between the Shield and the Wyatt family now. You know, after what happened in the Raw main event where the Wyatt family, you know, get the Shield DQ'd after going after John Cena, Sheamus, and Daniel Bryan, it seems like WWE are now building tension between the Shield and the Wyatt family going into the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And they addressed it in the opener. You had the Shield cut a promo in the opener. Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns are teasing issues now, which is furthering on Roman Reigns' potential babyface push. And, you know, the Shield make the challenge to the Wyatt family only for Triple H to come out and tell the Shield to let it go. And the Shield stand their ground and say they definitely want this match. Roman Reigns standing up to Triple H even got a really nice reaction. A lot of the fans were chanting, Roman, Roman, which was good. That's good. That shows that a future babyface push is definitely in the possibility there for a Roman Reigns, and it should work. And at the end of the day, Triple H makes the Shield versus the Wyatt family at the Elimination Chamber. As for my feelings on this match, you know, the way they set up to it with the Shield getting DQ'd because of the Wyatt family, I thought that was kind of idiotic. You know, it was an idiotic means to an end, which I'm guessing a lot of fans will be happy about. Even though it's a heel faction versus a heel faction, it's kind of a strange one, isn't it? Because a lot of, you know, whenever Bray Wyatt comes out, the fans cheer, even though he's supposed to be heel. You know, the Shield have been quite over. I mean, I remember in the first 6 months, they were incredibly over. So it's not like it's a heel faction versus a heel faction. It just seems like it's two factions that the fans are really entertained by and really like. Probably the Wyatt family more so, going at it in a match Elimination Chamber. It's a match I wouldn't mind seeing. So why not do this? So it looks like Titus ONeil is finally going into singles competition, and as part of that, he ditched his buddy Darren Young and kicked his ass. You know, it was kind of funny, this segment. It's like Darren Young lost the match, and then Titus ONeil's just like, you know, I came here to be a winner. And this is the first time I've ever been called a loser. Not on NXT or anything, but when you were tagging with Darren Young. And, you know, out of the two, I saw more potential in Titus ONeil, and I'm pretty sure WWE see way more potential in Titus ONeil. They're going to put way more stock in him as a singles guy. And it looks like WWE now will be packaging him as a heel, especially after what happened on this week's SmackDown, where he pretty much just beat the fuck out of Darren Young. And I just wonder how long it will be before he starts jobbing again. You know, I like it when WWE do this kind of thing, you know, set Titus ONeil on his own in the singles run, and I'm thinking, you know, this could be the start of something really good. But whenever something like this happens, you know, a couple of months down the line, you're thinking, damn, this guy had a really good run, and now he's just jobbing again. So now, as a fan, I'm just tuned to think that even though he may be on a good run now as a singles guy, how long will it be before he starts jobbing? And it's a shame, because something like this I should really be reacting positively to, but because of WWE's history, I just know something like this really isn't going to work. Look at Ryback's heel turn. You know, you kind of did that in a good way against John Cena, which was more of a babyface reaction, but at the end of the day, that heel turn just went nowhere. Look at the Summer of Punk. It went nowhere. The Nexus angle. Nowhere. And now Barrett is a stupid gimmick. You know, so history dictates to me that this isn't going to fucking work. Even though a guy like Titus ONeil, you'd think a guy like him, if he was probably white, WWE would probably push him to the fucking moon. A couple of little highlights from Raw and SmackDown. Jake the Snake Roberts is in the Hall of Fame. You know, I'm really glad about this. I think, you know, Jake the Snake Roberts is a well-deserved admission into the Hall of Fame. And so far, Ultimate Warrior and Jake the Snake Roberts being two Golden Era guys, it's making for a pretty good Hall of Fame so far. I just wonder who WWE have got in the bag for WrestleMania 30, which is essentially going to be a massive Hall of Fame this year. Jake the Snake Roberts, very, very worthy admission to there as well. We also had a video package for Alexander Rusev on the show. I thought this was quite interesting. He debuted in WWE from NXT at the Royal Rumble, showed himself pretty well in there, I thought, and basically we had a video package saying that the revolution starts now. Apparently the Rusev Revolution starts now, and he will crash everybody, according to Lana there. So that'll be interesting to see where they go with Rusev. So on Raw this week, Brock Lesnar came out to pretty much destroy the Rhodes brothers and make their tag team title rematch pretty much void. And it looks like WWE now are building to a rematch on Raw this week in a steel cage match, as it got, I believe that got announced. They had Cody Rhodes versus Road Dogg here. Cody Rhodes got the win. As for the match being in a steel cage, you know, steel cages have never usually notoriously stopped people from getting in. But I guess, you know, I would have preferred they probably did this and furthered this on until Elimination Chamber. But as some kind of Raw main event, it should be somewhat interesting. I mean, Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus the New Age Outlaws was a very good pre-show match, I felt. I think a match on a pay-per-view would definitely warrant a blow-off to this feud, personally, though. So as we saw on Raw, as a result of the main event, Sheamus, John Cena and Daniel Bryan made it through to the Elimination Chamber due to the Wyatt family failing in an attack on those three, which got the Shield disqualified. And that left us with two more voids to fill for the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, currently held by Randy Orton. And on SmackDown, we actually got two qualifying matches. You know, you don't usually see this from WWE logic, but we got two qualifying matches for the Elimination Chamber match this coming, you know, in 3 weeks' time. So that was good, I felt. It gave these matches a bit of meaning to happen on the show. The first of which was Dolph Ziggler versus Antonio Cesaro. You know, I don't know why either one of these really have any credentials based on their booking to get a shot at the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but it was a pretty good match between these two, Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro. Cesaro gets the win, and I'm quite surprised to see him in the Chamber match, but I would have said the same about Dolph Ziggler anyway. But Cesaro is at least one of those guys that can get it done in the ring and have maybe a big spot in there or something. And even though he loses most of the time, you know, I just think that if you're going to put someone in an Elimination Chamber match, you really need to book them strongly going into it. And I just don't see Cesaro as really had that. As for the other qualifying match, we had Christian versus Jack Swagger. Does anyone else find it funny that this time last year, Jack Swagger was getting a massive push going into WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship, and he won the Elimination Chamber by pinning Randy Orton. Don't you find that quite funny? As for Christian, I'm going to focus most of this on Christian. So Christian has now returned to basically get into the Elimination Chamber, and, you know, they even gave him a nice post-match interview basically talking how his window of opportunity is decreasing as he gets older and the injuries get higher. You know, so that was good. I felt they did a good job in introducing Christian back. I think this was even hyped up on Raw, I believe, as well. So they did a good job bringing him back. And I just wonder, again, this is just WWE's history. I just wonder if they have any long-term plans for Christian, or whether it is just a way to get someone else in the chamber if a bigger name comes along. Because when Christian returns and just gets in the chamber, I just wonder, are WWE thinking months in advance, or maybe it's WrestleMania, that they're not going to, are they? So is Christian just there to be in the chamber match and have no real bearing on WrestleMania? Or is he actually going to come back to the chamber, maybe have a decent run in there, and have some kind of match at WrestleMania, even if it is going to be on the pre-show? But it looks like we're going to be getting Randy Orton, John Cena, Sheamus, Daniel Bryan, more importantly, he won't win, and Christian and Antonio Cesaro as our 6 in the Elimination Chamber match. You know what? That isn't a bad chamber match. You know, you've got Daniel Bryan in there, who's incredibly over, Sheamus, who's a star, obviously, in WWE's eyes, Orton, Cena, and then 2 guys in there, you know, Cesaro and Christian, who are really just going to do a job and, you know, keep the match flowing, etc. So it looks like a decent, at best, chamber match, in my opinion. You would have thought, though, that getting a win over Randy Orton a couple of weeks ago on Raw, Kofi Kingston would have a very liable shot, or a very believable, viable shot, to get into the Elimination Chamber, but he was just too busy jobbing to a guy that gets 0 reaction at Del Rio and beating Damian Sandow, who's gone from Money in the Bank to jobber. So I guess WWE have got bigger plans for Kofi Kingston after what was a very big win for him on Raw a couple of weeks ago. Fucking stupid. One thing I think WWE really needed to nail this week was really cementing and following up on Roman Reigns after breaking Kane's record of eliminations by eliminating 12 people at the Royal Rumble. If they're going to make this guy into a star, I feel they really needed to follow up on that on this week's edition of Raw and also this week's edition of Smackdown. And they did a decent job of this on Raw and Smackdown this week. They have booked him quite strongly, and they booked him as a monster in the Raw main event by spearing various people, even though he came out on the losing end, but it was via a DQ. And then they had him get the pin on Rey Mysterio in this week's main event, which was The Shield versus Rey Mysterio, Sheamus, and Daniel Bryan. So they're actually doing a decent job in actually booking Roman Reigns in as, you know, decently strong going into the Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania pay-per-view. This was really important that they followed up on this very strongly. As for the storyline continuation between The Shield and Wyatt family, you know, of course, you had the typically creepy Wyatt family Tron promo, which is always good to see. And, you know, like I said, the promo segment that opened the show, they were teasing tension between Ambrose and, you know, and Roman Reigns, but the Seth Rollins is the kind of guy that is just like, well, if these guys slip, then I'm not really going to be much use in the WWE, so I'm going to try and keep them all together. Just the way it feels to me. But the main event of this show was quite inconsequential if you consider the big talking point that happened this week, which I will go on to next. So apparently on Monday night before Raw, CM Punk quit the WWE and walked out on the company, citing that he was burnt out and wasn't happy with his direction going into WrestleMania. He wasn't happy facing Triple H as he didn't feel it was a big enough match and he wasn't going to be in the main event of WrestleMania. Hence why it seems like Daniel Bryan has now been put in his spot, going against the authority kind of thing. And you know what? What surprised me the most was the fact that all this happened right before the biggest payday of the year. Now, I don't know whether or not this is a shoot, or whether or not this is, you know, legit, or whether this is some kind of work or something. But I think, you know, if this was a work, I don't know why it would happen right before WrestleMania and why CM Punk would walk out right before WrestleMania with the big payday. I don't know. I want to think this is a work. I really do, because, you know, I really want to think that WWE could do something special here. But I feel I might be giving WWE, as many people have said on YouTube, a little bit too much credit with that thought. And I think a lot of you would be in tune with me there as well. It'd be awesome if it did happen. It would be awesome if WWE actually fooled all of us by making this seem like a shoot. But I doubt that'll happen. But I will keep that option open because you never know. He could return down the line and they could maybe make a storyline out of it. But I just want to give my opinion on this if it is a shoot. And I just want to explain, if it is a shoot and it is real, I want to give my opinion on this. And many people have, and, you know, I might be rehashing what some people have said, but, you know, essentially this is my opinion. I guess my main question is, Did CM Punk really feel he was ever going to main event at WrestleMania? Did he really feel like he was ever going to be a top guy for the WWE and surpass a guy like John Cena? You know, there are many short-term guys in the WWE right now, and I understand that it is unfair on the full-time roster. They go out there and bump, and they have injuries, and they're there 24/7, and, you know, their WrestleMania payday gets taken by a guy that just comes in for, you know, an overpriced amount of money who's a big star. You know, but the problem is, these guys are proven draws, and WWE are very big on business, and they want to make as much money as possible and satisfy their shareholders, which is why they push The Rock, obviously, in the main event, which is why they push Batista, which is why they push Brock Lesnar, you know, which is why they made New Age Outlaws the tag team champions, because they're names that people recognize, and they're names that the mainstream fans will recognize, as opposed to CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, which mainstream fans won't recognize anywhere near as much. So why would WWE put CM Punk in a big spot when they could probably get a lot more out of Dave Batista short term, and guys like The Rock short term, and guys like the Brock Lesnar short term? That's why WWE never made CM Punk the man, in my opinion. And it's not like WWE haven't put any stock in the guy. I mean, he has worked with Triple H, a big star, who he could have worked with at WrestleMania, and I feel that would have been a big match for him at WrestleMania. It would have been high up on the card. He went against the Streak. He worked with Brock Lesnar. He worked with The Rock at 2 pay-per-views. He even technically pinned him 1, 2, 3, if you count that. He worked with Chris Jericho. He had a over 430-day title reign, which is one of the longest in the modern era. So he's had a lot of stock put in him. He was never going to be the guy. He was never going to overtake John Cena, and there are many reasons for that. And, you know, people have differing opinions as to whether or not this is a shoot or whether it is for a work. And, you know, I kind of thought it was a work at the beginning, you know, thinking it's WWE. But then I just decided I'm just going to see what happens, and I'm just going to give my opinion on if this is a shoot, you know, the kind of stuff I've been hearing. You know, personally, I don't think it will affect WrestleMania 30 that much. I mean, was CM Punk really going to be a headliner, you know, a big draw going into WrestleMania 30 over guys like Brock Lesnar, even guys like Triple H, you know, Batista, etc., maybe even Hogan if they sign him? Was he really going to be a main attraction? Probably not. So it won't affect WWE going into WrestleMania 30. However, it may affect WWE a little more once guys like Batista, Lesnar, Hogan, etc. aren't there anymore, and they need the full-time roster guys to step up. On the other hand, it could leave another star, possibly a Daniel Bryan. It could leave him CM Punk's place, which is the second top babyface in the company, in my opinion. But, I mean, if he feels he has enough money, CM Punk, if this is a shoot, and if he is burned out and he wants a break, then fair enough. But it was slightly unprofessional of him to leave before his contract was fulfilled in July of this year. You know, at least, you know, as the business goes, at least put someone else over on the way out. If you think Daniel Bryan is the next big thing, then put him over big on your way out. You know, that's all I'm saying. And, you know, I'm not going to, you know, speak to CM Punk personally here or anything, because it's his choice, fair enough. But, and you never know, this may be, you know, CM Punk may just become another one of those guys that WWE bring in short term and is way overpaid. And, you know, in that sense, it would make more sense. You know, he would work less dates, probably get more money, because WWE would be desperate for the star power. And it would be easier for him if, you know, if he doesn't like the travel schedule, if he doesn't like interacting with fans, you know, it will be a lot easier for him. I just think WWE needed him more than he needed the WWE. That's probably how this panned out. And I understand a lot of fans are going to be very unhappy about this and are going to blame the WWE, oh, they didn't push him enough and blah, 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 blah. I mean, they even hijacked the NXT tapings recently by consistently chanting CM Punk throughout the NXT show. You know, so you've got a very hostile crowd on your hand right now because of what happened here. And of course, Triple H is going to get the blame. Probably Vince McMahon will get part of the blame. But essentially, at the end of the day, it was CM Punk's decision to leave. So I'm not really sure I can put too much blame on Triple H and Vince McMahon, who essentially, at the end of the day, are just trying to do, and I know you're fed up of me saying this, are just trying to do what's best for business. Just trying to do what's best with their own money. And I've bring this example up so many times. If you were in their shoes, you'd probably have done exactly the same thing as Vince McMahon and Triple H have done. That's all I'm saying. And, you know, at the end of the day, CM Punk apparently is a very goal-driven person. And I think this is maybe a combination of unrealistic goals, in my opinion, and, you know, and combined with a very goal-driven individual. And, you know, this just comes to the point where he's just like, well, I'm not going to get to that point, so there's no point in me trying to work there. You know, and the thing is, I bet John Cena, who is the top guy, I bet he hates being hurt. I bet he hates being burned out. I bet he hates the travel schedule. But you can tell that John Cena at least has a passion for what he does. And, you know, and maybe John Cena sometimes doesn't like the direction of the WWE. But the bottom line is, he is a top guy because he stays there and gets on with it. And WWE know he won't walk out. And that's why Vince McMahon is pushing him to the moon, just like he did, you know, with The Rock and Austin. He didn't think they were going to walk out, but he pushes them to the moon. And that's why I think Vince McMahon probably, and Triple H probably never had that feeling about CM Punk. They probably, especially after what happened, you know, a couple of years ago, etc., in 2011, they probably never really had the feeling that he would be the kind of guy that would stay because he was constantly frustrated or something. You know John Cena and Randy Orton and Sheamus are not going to walk out from the WWE. Therefore, WWE are going to push them a little bit more. And just look what's happened with CM Punk. He's going to walk out on the WWE. And they put a lot of stock in the guy, and that is how he repays them. At least go until your contract runs out. I don't know. And all in all here, I know I've gone for a long time. There is a lot to digest. I could have talked about so many other things. And it is, if nothing, it's a very interesting story to come out of WWE, which has got loads of people talking. Don't deny it. So many people have been on Twitter talking about it, on Facebook doing YouTube videos about it, including myself. And I guess at the end of the day, as the Schleg Daddy said in his video, the worst publicity is no publicity at all.